Let's talk about the best weapons for the Crown of Sorrow raid. Although individual experiences may vary due to expertise or preferences with weapons, these have been tested to either be the most consistent, useful, or highest damage weapons you can use. Quickly, I have to mention armor. Leviathan mods do work in Crown of Sorrows, so these are the Year 1 mods from the Year 1 raids. I would strive for a combination of Striking Hand, Giving Hand, and Emperor's Blaze as they apply to all the encounters. Emperor's Blaze is essential here, as it increases the damage you do in a well by an extra 25%, just as the tooltip says here. To get this benefit, you need to have the mod equipped. I would say sacrificing light level in order to get an item with this mod is much more valuable, as it increases the damage you do in a well by an extra 33%, for a total of 168.75% increased damage. As I'm showing here, you can actually use the Year 1 raid armor you can get in the endgame tab of your armor collections, and in order to get Emperor's Blaze, you can use one of the class items here, as well as the gloves allow you to get Striking Hand or Giving Hand as well. If you do receive the random mod as you're doing the raid, it is incredibly valuable, and I would suggest never to get rid of it. For the first encounter, you need to deal with trash mobs, mages, and bosses, some of which are at a far distance. Suggested guns are very lenient here. For primaries, I recommend Recluse, 150 hand cannons, and pulse rifles, as they all work well. For secondaries, mountaintop, rapid-fire shotguns, especially surrounded threat level, or snipers are also advised. Almost any good power weapon here will do. A few are Thunderlord, 1K, Tracked Cannon, Prospector, Wardcliff, yeah, even Whisper. Honestly, you put anything on, once you're at max light level, everything will die. This is what I commonly use. 90 RPM kinetic sniper rifles with major spec do 2-shot the Blessed Knights. Good perks to use here are Triple Tap and any complementary perk, including Snapshot or Rapid Aim. Those are the two ones I would suggest. Recluse is the best legendary primary weapon in the game right now, so I use that. And I haven't comfortably set on a power weapon. I'll usually switch between like a Prospector or a 1K or a Thunderlord, depending on what I'm feeling like. Honestly, I just get bored and start switching it up during the encounter. All of these weapons here pair well with Well of Radiance as well as Emperor's Blaze, and I usually switch between Lunafactions and Phoenix Protocol in order to get the best benefit out of my wells. To use this efficiently, drop a well with Lunafaction boots on, switch to Phoenix Protocol, and kill enemies. Once you get a significant amount of your super back from Phoenix Protocol, switch back to Lunafaction boots and just repeat that process. For crystals, just make sure you have any primary equipped or mountaintop the shielded crystals, because this game isn't totally broken, I swear. Phase 1 Galhran has a lot of misconceptions around it. Swords are not favourable as they push the boss around and cause issues for teammates who aren't using swords, and along with this, they pale in comparison to the top explosive DPS weapons in Prospector and 150 spike grenade launchers, preferably Void. Mountaintop or shotguns are top tier for ad clear and help with boss damage, and Recluse or any well-rolled primary works well. I do need to specifically mention Anarchy here. This combination with Mountaintop has incredibly high capabilities for DPS, but not the highest in this raid. In my opinion, it's the most versatile combination of guns in this raid or even in PvE overall. Speaking of Anarchy, you can stun the boss for as long as you live with Witch's Blessing by hitting Galhran with an Anarchy Bolt before his shield goes back up, then getting a teammate to apply normal damage. If you maintain the buff by staying far enough away when the shield breaks, you can get 6 to 7 damage phases depending on how long the Witch's Blessing lasts before you die from the curse. My loadout is identical to what I mentioned earlier. Usually I end up running Tractor Cannon to ensure that a debuff is applied, and run the same subclass and mod combination that I have done in the previous encounter. Lunafaction boots is incredibly essential to increasing the entire team's DPS, and I would never take them off after you complete the first encounter. Let's take a quick detour to talk about 1-2 Punch and Top Tree Arcstrider. This clip you're seeing is from one of my closest friends and clanmates, Frank UK. Combining combination blows increased melee damage, stacking up to 3 times, Liar's Handshakes increase damage in cross counter, and 1-2 Punch from the Reckoning or New Raid shotgun, you can reach the most economical DPS in the game, lasting for crazy periods of time if you manage to refresh combination blow by killing enemies with melee attacks. This works well, but in an organized group which doesn't have the need for such continuous DPS, grenade launchers are a better choice. Speaking of which, here's a good example of DPS on the boss. Drop a well, apply debuffs, and wonder why you ever thought this boss was so hard. The final encounter has had some extensive testing done by some of my close friends. Shout out to Lucas for this damage table, representing hypothetical DPS. This can't be considered perfect, but it is a good representation for the DPS possible with these types of guns. With these numbers in mind, the best loadouts include either Mountaintop and Recluse, or a shotgun and another primary, and 150 RPM Void Spike grenade launchers, Prospector, or any other type of 150 spike grenade launchers. To elaborate on this quickly, Anarchy Mountaintop holds up because of the consistent Anarchy DPS while using a different weapon, which Mountaintop can fill the gap for. Void grenade launchers are preferred, as the only reasonable debuff applicable is Tractor Cannon, which buffs void damage more than the other types. And Wendigo's bonus only lasts for 6 shots, which does not apply itself to this scenario as much as, let's say, the Leviathan boss Callus. My loadout barely ever changes for the final encounter. I've got Mountaintop, Recluse, and either Tractor Cannon or a 150 RPM grenade launcher with spike grenades and a boss mod. As you can see, I switched up my gloves here for striking hand so that I can get an extra 20% increased damage if I have blessing during the damage phase off one of the thralls by killing them. Along with that, you make sure you keep the Emperor's Blaze for the extra increased damage in the well, and Lunafactions to make sure that you can keep firing off bullets. Quick demonstration on how to maximize DPS here. Use Emperor's Blaze, as I've been constantly mentioning this video, for increased damage in wells. Striking Hand for the 20% increased damage like I just mentioned if you kill a thrall. Get underneath the boss so your Tractor Cannon doesn't need to travel far back to the well, and shoot the boss until he dies. Let's talk about the other two classes here. As I mentioned, Hunter Top Tree Arcstrider is incredible for DPS with 1-2 punch and Liar's Handshake, but it's not as applicable for the final boss here, as you can't effectively punch the boss. I would suggest instead running Celestial Nighthawk with Bottom Tree Gunslinger for that explosive damage with Golden Gun. Quickly about Titans. Bottom Tree for Striker Titans as well as Sunspots do actually increase all weapon damage, so they are solid options for the final encounter here. You can also run Banner Shield or use bubbles in order to protect your teammates or yourself. In terms of team combinations, as long as you have a Warlock drop a well, the Titans can be incredibly useful for their increased buffs of weapon damage. So a few key takeaways for this video. Mountaintop is good, shotguns are not a bad replacement, get Recluse if you can, as some would say, this gun's pretty insane. Be prepared to grind out Iron Banner for Swarm of the Raven. This is a 150 Void Nade Launcher that can roll with Spike Nades, so if you want to be optimal, then get this gun. And overall, there are options to your loadout as well as your team's composition. Just make sure you have a Warlock, and for the most part, everything else will come easily. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Again, any questions, feel free to ask me below or on social media, and have a good one.